Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and this week I'm going to finish off the epoxy on the car and then I might look at fitting a wing. Alright, so last week you saw me get stuck in and primer all of the panels on the outside. So this week it's time to pull them off, flip them upside down, get them in the boot and see if we can put some primer on the inside. So as I was cleaning everything up last week to put the epoxy primer on, I noticed that I missed on this tailgate a couple of spots. There's a couple of spots where I have an oil can effect that need to be fixed. So, so much for the nice epoxy. I'm going to have to heat these up and do some stretching and see if I can get them to actually sit back down the way they're supposed to, and then I'll have to paint it again, but I'm not overly concerned about that. I just want to get it right. So let's start doing some shrinking. Oh, that was epic. That was far more work than I was expecting. It took ages to get rid of it all, but now I finally have a panel that that doesn't pop. The main issue is that it's such a large, flat, dead flat area. So usually, at least if it's got some sort of curve in it, it will it has a bit of strength. But because this is pretty much a dead flat piece, there's just very little strength in it, so any panel beating and damage it's had over the years has just sort of stretched it all, so it just sort of flops everywhere. So trying to tighten it all up was more of a mission than I expected. I'm calling that a win, and now it's time to start tackling the inside of most of these panels and see if I can make them a little bit nicer and ready for some paint. One of the benefits of getting the primer out is you can see the spots I missed and where there are still holes that need to be welded up. So I'm going to do that. Also on the front guards you can see there's extra holes from the second set of flares I had on the car. So one set of flare holes is all I need, so that's all I'm going to have. And some of these things, like, so there's a crack there that I didn't notice before, so that's got to be welded up. I also forgot about these holes here. These extra holes that were drilled into the top of the front guard. Who knows what they were done for, but they need to be fixed up. There's a bit of a crack there. A little bit more welding to be done. And I'm completely out of gas. So I'm going to have to leave the welding for now, and I think it's time to move over to the rear wing. Now I have my next challenge. I got this wing off of eBay, and it's really very poor quality. It looks semi-okay. It's going to need a fair bit of love to make it work properly, but the biggest issue is that there is nothing on the bottom. It's completely open. So how do I stick this onto here? Do I just tech screw it through the top and leave a big gap? No, that's terrible. It's a horribly made wing. The mold is obviously very old and tired and rough. It is horrible. It feels like a piece of sandpaper on the outside of this. So it's really, somebody has not put any effort into this at all. So I have to put the effort in to get it to actually work. That's my next challenge, is to actually get this to fit and work out how to mount it on. Okay, so time for my third change of tack. I want to sort of make some fiberglass mounts on the base of the wing. And to do that, I want to mold it basically to the back of the car. The next issue I have is the fact that the back of the car, this is not flat enough for my liking. So my next step is to give this a sand back and start doing some body filler on this panel to try and get this panel flat enough so that I can take a mold off of it and move forward from there. So as you probably saw, I was about to put the filler on it and I had a look and I wasn't happy. So a whole bunch of panel beating later and I can run my straight edge down, and again, it's not 100% flat, but I'm pretty happy that the worst places are probably a millimetre and a half along the edge. Not a lot at all, just a little skim, and some of the tiniest low bits should just be filled in. Considering how bad this was, I'm happy enough with that. So now I can actually put some filler on it. Okay, that's the first light skim on there. Just give it a little bit more time to set up, and it's quite warm today, so it's gone off really quickly. Give it a few, 2 or 3 coats, and I reckon it'll be spot on. Little tip, when you gum up your sandpaper with some filler, just hit it with a wire brush and you can get a bit more life out of your piece. Much better. All right, while I wait for that last coat to dry, I've got some gas now, so I'm going to go in and weld up these little holes here. So I'm going to get the wire wheel in there and tidy them up and just get some bare metal exposed. And then I've got this brass rod that I've had for a while, and I'm just going to stick that in behind there, so I've got something to weld onto, and that can support my weld. So let's patch up the last little bits on this hatch, and hopefully I can actually get this hatch like completely done. That'd be great. Okay, that's all welded up. I popped a bit of primer on the inside and on the outside just to make sure it's nice and secure and it's not going to rust anymore. So now the rust holes are fixed, let's get in and finish up this body filler on the back. So now I'm going to do a bit of concurrent activity in between doing body filler. I'm going to go through and start just doing patches around the place with the welder where I needed to. So like I mentioned before, welding the extra holes I had for the other flares. So start welding. I'm finally happy with the back end of this tailgate. I think it's nice and flat. There's a thin skim of filler on here. Trying to fill everything, get it all perfectly even. Took several coats. I'm quite happy with it now. And that brings me to fitting this spoiler on, and that's the next challenge. Now, as I mentioned before, it doesn't have any covering over the bottom. There is no captive nuts. There is basically zero way to mount this thing. which makes it really difficult to do it if you want to do it like I do and do it really nicely. I know a lot of guys fit these wings with just Sikaflex, just running a bead all the way along underneath and basically glue it onto the back of the car, which is fine and it will hold. But the other thing that I don't like is that because these ends overhang the hatch, they will, when you lift it up, they're going to have this hollow pocket there, and that is not good enough in my opinion. I want to make this so I can actually bolt it on and make it nice and firm and stable. And also I want it so that when you open it up, you can't see inside and it's actually, flush and covered and looks nice. That brings me to how I'm going to do that. So I've been scratching my head, and what I've worked out I'm going to do is I'm not going to block the whole length of this up because I don't think it's necessary. I'm going to put a mounting in the center here and then a cap over each end. In fact, why don't I seal the whole thing up? You know what? I'm going to seal the whole bottom up because why not? Let me start getting in here now and I'll show you how I'm going to do it. Okay, so as you can see, I've taped up the back of the car now and I've actually traced around where I want to mount my wing. And let me explain the method to my madness here. What I've done is I've actually sat this hatch down about maybe 2 millimeters lower than the sides of the car, and there's a good reason for that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mold this on so that these ends sit slightly higher than the middle, so that when I actually finally mount my hatch up, it'll lift the wing just off, a couple of millimeters off on either side, so it sits nice and tight to the car, but doesn't actually touch. There's actually a gap there, so that it's not going to rub on the paint once it's all put together. So fingers crossed that actually works well. All right, so you see now I drilled some holes and I put some nuts and bolts through. I drilled larger holes on the underside with a step drill bit so that I can make sure I could fit my socket in through there to do these up. And I've got them spaced nicely. I've also put the bolts in, even though I'm going to pull them out again, just to check to make sure that they actually fit under the wing, because I've done it before where I've done it and they've come through and they've touched the lower part of the wing instead of going inside. So it fits. It fits all nicely, so now I need to pull them back out again and start doing my first layer of fiberglass. Okay, I'm all set up here. I've got my acetone for cleanup. I've got all my fiberglass matting all cut up into strips. I've got a tub for mixing up my resin and a bit of hardener, and my nuts and bolts, everything ready to go. I have my bolts sticking through the back of the car ready to go, and over here I've got the rear wing upside down here, ready for some fiberglassing. I'm just going to give it a quick scuff with some sandpaper, just so that it will actually give it something so that it can, the new fiberglass can bite onto. And what my plan is I'm going to actually lay some fiberglass matting on the inside of here and also on this edge here. And as I put it down, I'm going to have it so it's overhanging and let it fold onto the fiberglass matting that I already have on here, so that they can sort of stick together when I put it on the car. You can sort of see that I've got it sitting on there. It's not pretty at the moment, but it's all there, it's all joined on, it's at the levels I want. So now all I need to do is wait for it to start getting a bit rubbery, and then I can run around and trim the edges with a razor blade. All right, so as you can see, I went round and I trimmed it all while it was still green, and that's going to save me a lot of time and awful itchy sanding later, hopefully. I'm going to leave that on there now, leave it for a day or so to set up properly, but I'm completely out of time now, so I guess that's time for fun facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, in 1963, Datsun entered into the East African Safari Rally for the first time. Now, this rally is one of the most grueling races in the world, and they couldn't have picked a worse year to debut. Datsun entered a factory team with a pair of 311 Bluebirds, and this year became known as the Year of the Magnificent Seven, as only 7 of the 84 entrants actually managed to finish the race. The weather was terrible. Competitors had to make it through torrential floods and downpours in sections of the race in Kenya, Uganda and Tanganyika, or as it is now known, Tanzania. And unfortunately, neither of the 2 Datsuns finished the race. They came back in 1964 with Cedric's coming in 21st. Although this was second to last of the finishing cars, there were 94 starters, so to finish it all was a fantastic result.
All right, guys, that week didn't turn out exactly the way I planned it. I planned to put some more epoxy on the car, and that definitely didn't happen because there was a whole heap more panel beating in that rear tailgate section, and then all the fiberglassing work on the wing. Unfortunately, we can't get to see the results until next week. You and I both have to wait and let it set up, and we'll see how it worked out. But just giving it a bit of a wiggle, and it feels pretty firm, so that's a good sign. So, as always, thanks for watching. If you want to help the channel out, just head down to the description below and click on the link to our store, and you can get some shirts, hoodies or coffee mugs. As always, please like and subscribe to Home Built by Jeff, and you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at the same place. See you guys.